cold weather conditions, heat, clothing, food, and shelter become vital survival factors. Unless tactical considerations dictate otherwise, this section will be using the Arctic tent. The Arctic tent is bell-shaped, with a 5-sided base. It is composed of a light, water-resistant fabric and is supported by a central tent pole and 16 guy lines. It is equipped with a zippered door, tie-down points, air vents, a stovepipe opening, and a reinforced apex for the tent pole. The tent is also equipped with snow flaps. In winter, 2 tents are used. The inner tent is hung by a system of loops and toggles in such a way that an insulating layer of air is formed between the inner and outer tents. When embarking on an operation, all equipment must be carefully inspected. During inspection of the 2 tents, the reinforced apexes must be checked to see that they are in good condition. Check that the air vents open properly and that the zippers slide freely. During inspection of sides and flaps, all seams must be carefully checked. Lines, pegs, and tie-down points must also be inspected. It is extremely important that the tent be previously hung up to dry. A tent that retains traces of humidity will inevitably deteriorate. Before taking up a position, think camouflage. For example, to avoid leaving visible tracks, the position should be approached under cover of woods or behind snowbanks and slopes. The choice of a campsite for the platoon must take into account a number of tactical considerations. Choose a position that affords the best possible defense advantages. This sketch shows that the trail leading to the encampment branches off into an area well hidden by trees. One or more false trails will lure the enemy away. An observation post should provide a line of sight that will enable any enemy approach to be spotted. A forest is the ideal surrounding, since it provides the best possible cover against observation by the enemy. It also provides the material you need for camouflage, tent insulation, and heating. The layout of the camp is normally determined by the platoon's reconnaissance party, made up of the platoon and Section 2 ICs. Once a campsite is selected, the platoon commander should issue instructions for setting up camp, with priority given to the construction of field defenses. Normally, everything having to do with living quarters and meals will come last. Setting up observation posts, designating patrol routes, and laying security devices such as booby traps or mines will be accomplished first. Once defense installations are well underway, attention can be turned to setting up the camp itself. The section commander confirms the siting of the tent and its orientation in relation to the rest of the encampment and issues detailed instructions to all personnel. The cook should be put to work as soon as possible. The section will usually carry its own water supply. Otherwise, water may be obtained by melting ice or snow. In that case, however, water must be purified by boiling it for several minutes or by treating it with water purification tablets. Setting up the tent requires a minimum of 5 persons. The tent is laid out flat on the ground with the door zipper closed. The spike end of the tent pole is inserted into the reinforced apex and solidly secured. As one person holds the pole in place, the others lay out the lines, beginning with the lower ones. Next, the middle lines are laid out, then finally the upper ones. The toboggan is used to secure the door guy above the door. So as to give the tent better stability and insulation, snow is banked over the tent flaps. Meanwhile, others will be setting up a latrine and a garbage pit. The latrine should be some distance from the tents, but not so far as to encourage lax observation of the rules of proper hygiene. It consists essentially of a pit and an overhung tree trunk. The windbreak may be made of branches, blocks of snow, fabric, or whatever is handy. The living routine inside a tent must be properly organized because space is restricted, so rucksacks and weapons are left outside. In the case of the weapons, this also helps to avoid condensation. At the same time, it is advisable to keep at least one weapon at hand inside. The cook is the first to go inside and organize equipment and supplies. All cooking supplies are stored under the stovepipe opening. Air mattresses and sleeping bags are installed along the walls. Once inside the tent, all personnel must stay put and not move about any more than is necessary. Properly trained personnel should need less than half an hour to set up camp. At bedtime, sleeping bags are arranged about the tent according to prior duty assignments. So long as this is done methodically, the sentry will not have to disturb the whole group when waking up his replacement during the night. Those who use sleeping bags should wear the least possible clothing. However, there will be times when tactical considerations will call for sleeping fully clothed on top of the sleeping bag, using a parka as a blanket. Whenever a fire is kept burning inside the tent, it is absolutely imperative that a fire picket be on duty. In conditions of intense cold, sentries cannot be expected to remain outside for too long. Accordingly, such conditions must be taken into account when assigning sentry duties, seeing to it that frequent replacements are provided. In the morning, breakfast will be served more promptly if care is taken to fuel the stoves and prepare rations ahead of time. Then heating is all that is required. Once the camp is up and about, the latrine and garbage pit must be covered with at least 60 centimeters of snow. Striking the tent is carried out by team, just as it was in setting it up. It is important that the tent be folded carefully so that it is kept in good condition and will be easier to set up the next time. In winter, even more than in summer, the task of setting up the camp speedily and efficiently calls for precision teamwork.